No? We don't need to do a roll call. We're going to just get into the meeting then. No roll call tonight. At this time, I'd like to ask all members of the board, the administration, and the community to please stand, face the flag, and recite the Pledge of Allegiance. Good evening. Thank you to everyone that has joined us here in person tonight or is watching this on the live stream. We have a busy agenda tonight, including a school spotlight featuring Sheridan Elementary, several important reports, including one on our annual school culture and climate study, as well as many action items, including a recommendation on a new math curriculum for next year. However, before we jump into this busy agenda, I want to acknowledge and congratulate students, teachers, and families as they approach the finish line on this academic year, with a special acknowledgement to District 4th and 8th graders that will soon be advancing to new schools. Everyone across the district has truly been all in every day, and on behalf of the board, I'd like to congratulate you for making the most of this year. Please keep focused for the next couple of weeks for the sake of your teachers, but I hope you have a restful, fun, and sun-filled summer. With that, let's introduce our friends from Sheridan to learn about what's been happening over there this year. Susan?
Good evening. Thank you for inviting us. I am only going to speak for a brief second because they are well rehearsed and ready to explain to you one of our favorite things at Sheridan School that is special and unique to us is how we host house and family events. The houses are shark houses, think Harry Potter without the sorting hat kind of thing. And I am going to turn it over to them to explain a little bit more about it.
Hi, my name is Riley Lockhart.
And hi, my name is Maisie Nero.
And we will be presenting the shark houses and families. These are 4 houses: Reef, Tiger, Blacktip, and Hammerhead.
Families are smaller groups within the houses with 1 to 2 adults and about 8 students who are across different grades in different classes.
Each house and family activities are to practice breathing, teamwork, and etc. And in the groups and houses, not only do we do those things, but we also have fun challenges like the domino challenge.
We first start off in the big gym and then move into our groups all over the school. This helps the teachers and students prepare themselves for what they are going to talk about.
Hi, my name is Lulu McCain.
Hi, my name is Grace Ackerman.
Today we will be presenting what we do at family events. Once a month on Fridays, we get together with our families and we talk about things like gratitude, self-awareness, bullying, mindfulness, breathing, exercise strategies to calm down when stressed, nervous, or angry. Lessons help everyone learn and understand how to express themselves.
We begin and end family events all together in the gym. Sometimes we do big group projects like our domino challenge and which house can walk the farthest.
Hi, my name is George, and this is why we like family events. We get to meet new people and we get to learn new things about life. We get to see and be with more adults in new spaces and classrooms, and new students are able to meet more kids.
We also get to have conversations with different kids in different grade levels. Also, older kids get to teach younger kids to become role models and help them become more comfortable and confident. Shorter sentence, older and younger kids get to build stronger relationships. They also encourage teamwork.
Hi, my name is Lulu McCain.
And hi, my name is Kenna Dolan.
Today we will be presenting the domino challenge. The domino challenge idea came from students, decided to do it with cereal boxes, and donated over 200 to a local food pantry. All students got to participate, organized by house.
So I was in the domino challenge when we did it, and at first we actually had a lot of trouble getting it to work.
there weren't enough boxes, and some kids accidentally kept knocking over the boxes, so some parts fell over. But then all the students, they collaborated together and used their creative thinking, and they set up all the boxes again, and they designed a way to use their feet to set off all the boxes at the same time. So it actually worked, and we were pretty persistent, and we didn't stop trying until we actually did it.
We put together a compilation of a bit of a video of the different house events and family events so that you could see it. And these kids who worked on this also, they were asked one word to describe house events and family events and everything. So those are the words that you'll see throughout this. Tiana, will you press play for me? Thank you. Sound? No sound? Well, there is a fun song in the background, but you can just watch the pictures if you want. No. It is a little bit more fun with music, but still kind of cute. Absolutely, for sure. It's in our, if you go back into our backup, it's up now? Yeah, I think so. But anyone let me know and I can definitely send it to you. Yep. Thank you.
Thank you all so much. Are there any questions from the board about this?
We'd like to invite all of you up to take a picture with us, as is our new tradition with this new tradition of sharing. So if our guests would come up and stand in front of our tables, and we'll stand behind you. You too, Susan.
Saw me lagging. Guys, I'm so sorry, but we're going to ask you to slide down a little bit. Yeah. It's all about you staying centered. There you go. Keep going. There we go. Stay straight. Thanks. Oh, this is great. Stay sharp, house. Stay sharp. Say something. Sharp. Yay. There we go. Thank you. Tiger house.
Thank you guys so much for sharing what's going on at Sheridan. You are welcome to stay for the rest of the evening, but you can also leave if you'd like to go home.
You sent it to them? Okay. Thank you so much. Thank you.
Thanks, everyone.
Terrific. We will now move to Dr. Montgomery for the superintendent's report. Matt?
Thank you, kind sir. The topics that I will be addressing tonight are as follows. Quick update on the finish of the Portrait of a Graduate or Portrait of a Learner. Talk briefly on Spring Break 2023, which there's an action item tonight, as well as talk about 4th and 8th grade graduation, or graduates, and then facilities planning, and then finish a little bit about some writings that I recently released. So first with the Portrait of a Graduate, we had 4 sessions, and the final meeting, or meeting 4, was on May 3rd. An excellent finish to this process. There was, again, a highlight on student voice, which was exceptionally powerful, and almost so much so that the students didn't want it to end, as well as the adults who were participating. The collaboration between many different stakeholders and students really warmed my heart, and their perspective was truly unique and valued by all participants. When we look at the topics that we covered in the last meeting, you can see innovation, you can see global citizenship, citizenship and empathy. It was really pulling the whole process together with the idea that we are going to be working to finalize some images that will represent this work that will be going out to the teams of everyone who participated later this week. And we're still hoping to release the final portrait before the end of the school year. So we are on a tight timeline right now. What is happening right now is us just processing all of the feedback that we've received and making a couple iterations of the graphic, because there was some great feedback on the image itself, and we want to make sure that we hit the mark based on the feedback that we received by so many individuals who were gracious enough to participate. So there'll be one more digital touch base with them. Second topic I have is on the spring break. There was a survey that went out about spring break 2023. It certainly created a little bit of commotion on everybody's end, and I apologize for that, but this was something that I felt needed to be addressed, at least to get some initial feedback from our families, because our staff from 67 and 65 were asking us to move the week due to the fact that for next school year, 65, 67, and 115 were the only districts within the county that were in the third week of March as opposed to the fourth week in March. So when we looked at the feedback that we received from 67 parents and staff, you can see that the greatest category that received the most votes was for moving the spring break in both the staff and with the parents, acknowledging that the staff results are far greater than that of the parents. Any change in less than a year makes me uncomfortable, and I feel badly asking families to make that move. At the same time, our staff making the request that they can't spend time with their families who have children in other districts is something that really resonated with me as well, because of their chosen field, they have very limited variability on when they can spend time with their kids. And I know that those spring breaks are something that I cherish with my own children, and I'm happy that we are able to make the recommendation to you tonight to hopefully make that possible for our staff who are expressing this desire. Graduation season, so we have some changes, and Justin referred to it earlier in his opening, that the fourth graders and the eighth graders, they're matriculating to the next level, either to DPM or to LFHS. And we have been working hard to celebrate all of our students, especially those students who are making the transition, and also supporting them in their transition time. So when you look at how students are successful in the next building, oftentimes the work begins well before they actually have the first day. And you can see some of the things that have happened this school year, as well as things that are on the horizon, particularly for our eighth graders who are going to have orientation in August, for example. We have graduation for our eighth graders next Tuesday after the holiday weekend, and I'm looking forward to these upcoming days. This is an exciting time to be in schools, arguably as fun, if not more than the start of the school year. Actually, selfishly, I like the kickoff of school as a teacher more than anything else, but this is a time to celebrate all of the successes and certainly acknowledging everything that we have went through together as a community this school year. Here are a couple pictures just from Buddy Day, which is earlier this month at DPM. You can see our new admin team there flanked in front of the door, and the students had a wonderful experience. As the Board of Education, we have been talking about facilities for 67. We talked about them last workshop in the month of April. We just talked about it again before we joined all of you here tonight. And we are reviewing those facilities needs with Dr. Hermes as well as Mr. Mortensen. And we're looking at projects that are time-sensitive, projects that require long-term planning. But I want to really thank Dan and his team to put together not only a short-term but a long-term plan that allows us to look at the absolute needs as well as looking at innovation and spaces to improve our facilities to ensure that we are meeting the needs of students now and well into the future. This is, I think I told the boards that one of my personal goals is to write and share my thoughts as an educational leader. Two things came out recently that I just want to draw your attention to momentarily. One was my article that was produced in Education Week, and they asked me to share just my perspectives on leadership in a post-pandemic world. And I was most pleased with the invite for the right. They asked to produce something, and then the fact that when they went through the editing process, they didn't edit it too much. There's always that vulnerability when you submit something and you put it up to editors, you don't know what their opinion is. But I was really pleased with how it ended. And then just last week, you heard me talk last month about hope. And I expanded on that thinking a little bit more with the Hope blog that I released. My hope is to continue to have these conversations, because I think it's important that as the leader of the organizations, the staff, the community is hearing where my thoughts are around timely topics that are really impacting our kids. So if you haven't had a chance to read those, I would ask you to take a look, because there's certainly a capturing of things that are resonating with me and things that I think we need to spend some energy and some resources on moving forward, particularly with the area of hope and how we are ensuring that our kids are hopeful for their future in the immediate and long term. That, Mr. England, concludes my superintendent report. If you have any questions, I'd be happy to entertain them.
Thank you, Matt. Are there any questions for Matt?
So I just have a quick observation. Your Hope blog spoke to me just initially because I think it's what drives me through difficult things. And we've had our share of those in the last few years. But also today I had the privilege of seeing the music show for the 5th and 6th graders at DPM. And the theme of it had to do with perseverance and resilience and the promise of tomorrow, I think. And all of the songs were about things like that. And it was just very hopeful. And by the end, you just felt joy because of the various songs that they had sung and performed. So, great.
Thank you for sharing, Suzanne.
Matt, with the spring break, I know we got some emails from parents about seeking accommodations for their plans that were already locked in. Can we accommodate them in some way, or?
So each parent that is coming with concerns, and we're doing the same thing with 115, they should reach out to their building principal, and they will work with them to ensure that we minimize the impact. For the younger students, my perspective is that they should go on the week that they have planned, and we'll give them the materials so they can make up the following week. I would expect that if they're missing the second week of school, they should expect some materials from the week that they missed. So we're not absolving them from that work, but we will partner with them to make sure that they have the time to make it up the second week if they're taking the original week.
Perfect, thanks.
All right, we'll move to our first opportunity for public participation in tonight's meeting. As a quick reminder, we will now hear public comment subject to our board policy 2-230. Before reiterating some of our guidelines for public comment, I'd like to stress this is an opportunity for public comment that is limited to comments about this meeting's agenda items only, so action items that are on the agenda this evening. The second opportunity for public comment can be about whatever topic somebody would like to discuss. With that said, our guidelines for public comment are as follows. So any interested speakers should first state their name before addressing the board. Everyone will be granted a maximum of 3 minutes to provide comment on school district matters, and our board clerk, Tiana, will be measuring time. If there are any comments or multiple comments, would appreciate if folks are not redundant and all comments be directed to the board. In order to provide an accurate response, any detailed questions posed to the board during public comment will be listened to, taken under advisement. As a reminder, the public is always welcome to meet with school officials to receive information, discuss ideas, or express concerns. And lastly, if there are any letters or other written materials, they can be submitted to our board clerk for Tiana for public record. With that, are there any members of the public who'd like to address the board about action items this evening?
Justin, I'm not too sure this is going to fly. I was going to do a very liberal interpretation of this first meeting, or first public participation. I was looking at the fact that the Education Committee has a report, and I was presuming that maybe you were going to be talking about the 67's response to the high school's one statement, the diversity, equity, and inclusion thing. So I don't know if that was an action item or not, but I wanted to tie it all together. It's not. Okay, well, I guess I'm not able to speak. So what I would suggest as I'm leaving is that I have ordered yard signs, and I will be gifting them to each of the board members of both 67 and 115. And hopefully we'll come back and do something of a bigger nature. So have a good night. I didn't realize it had to be an action item. I missed that. I don't know if I want to, I don't know how long the meeting is going to last, so, okay. And Suzanne, I respect your leadership, but do something with the one statement, will you? Have a good night.
Thank you, Patrick.
As a FYI, we are having streaming issues, so right now nothing is being streamed, but we are working on it right now. But Ed and Jordan are, it is being recorded.
So it can be post-streamed?
Yes. Just want to make sure you all were aware. Sorry for interrupting, Michelle.
Thank you, Matt.
Can we put something,
like where the live stream is, can someone put a comment there that says, or a hold it stream or something? I know you all can. Just to alert people that it will be available.
All right. We'll now move to reports for the evening, and we'll begin with Dr. Shin for a report on the CSCI.
Great, thank you. Surrounded by a lot of sharks tonight. Grandparents of sharks, alumni sharks, former parents of sharks, and I just want the board to know when we did go through the process of identifying the houses for the school, it's very difficult to find a shark that does not eat people alive. So it was a very fun process, and if you want to hear about the development sometime, but the kids did a great job, and it was nice to see that that tradition still continues in the building, because it does create an avenue, I think, for a lot of the things that we're doing with school climate. So my report is not very long tonight. It's an update, and the nice thing is we're consistently consistent about some things. I think that in light of today's events, I can hope that folks will take away the positives that are going on in our district at this time and know that when you send your kids to school, that we take good care of them and want them to go home from school and value the partnership that we have with our community in terms of keeping our kids safe and our staff safe, as well as our parents in our building. So the CSCI, the Comprehensive School Climate Inventory, is required by ISB. Each school is each district has to survey the climate and culture, and you can either use the 5 essentials or there are 2 approved surveys as alternatives. So the high school and 67 both use the CSCI. It was developed by, I got the clicker tonight. Does the clicker work? Okay. Developed by the National School Climate Center. We administer it starting with students in grades 3 up through 8. Approximately 72 questions that students rate from a 1 as a negative to 5 as a positive, and it's clustered across 13 dimensions. Social inclusion is a dimension that was added in 2021 for staff, and you'll notice that it was added this year for students and parents as well, so we're starting to get some data in that area as we do the survey each year. So we completed the survey in April this year. We did survey our parents. We do that every other year because 115 also uses a survey, so we don't want parents trying to fill out the survey every year, although they might be because they have kids in each district, so thank you for doing that. But our participation rates in 2022, the goal is to get above 95% because that does count toward our summative designation on our school report card, so we worked really hard to do that. Our elementary schools are definitely above 95%. Our middle schools, we're in the process of verifying some numbers with the Climate Center, but ranging between 93 to 95. So I think we'll meet that goal. Our staff numbers, you can see, are the red bars. It varies from year to year. And we like the students, we have a unique identifier that allows us that we have to actually turn in the student ID number saying they completed the survey. The staff surveys are anonymous, so the best we can do is ask people to contribute to providing information to administrators and their teams to use for planning each year. So we're at about, across the district, maybe 78%. It varies among the 5 campuses, but, and our parent participation is probably lower. It is lower than it has been since we started, but we try to get around 25%. If we can get that, I think the Climate Center says we're pretty lucky. Our ratings by the dimensions along the bottom, you can see the dimensions for those of you that are, it's pretty small. We have safety rules and norms, which is the very first item next to the, on the far right, left. Sense of physical security, sense of social emotional security. This area, you'll notice in the green bars when I talked last year, with COVID, I think we had some things that went up due to the type of instructional model we were using. I do believe the ratings have come back down into what has been more typical over the years in these areas. Again, sense of social emotional security is in the neutral range. Anything above a 3.5 median rating is a positive range, so that is still an area that we need to focus some efforts on. It comes down to social emotional supports or social supports for students and adults, school connectedness and engagement. Roughly, most of our ratings on average are up around 4 out of 5, which I think is phenomenal from our students. And we had very good participation, so I think we have a pretty representative group here. Social media ebbs and flows along that 4.0 mark last year because I think we were just so isolated and tucked in that we see that spike up, and every once in a while we have requests from parents that want us to just not allow cell phones, which as a parent I echo that, although it's more easier said than done sometimes to do that. And then we added social inclusion this year for students and had a rating of about 3.7 or so. So again, above the neutral range. Suzanne?
Can you just speak briefly about what social inclusion means in this context?
So I did look that up, some of the questions, because I thought there would be a question about that. It has to do with inclusion of students with disabilities. And I looked at some of the questions. It goes along the lines, because they have a different format now. So any student can be a leader is one of the questions. All students' accomplishments are celebrated. Students are included in after-school activities. Friendships, participation. I learn from students from diverse backgrounds. So it really had to do with inclusion of students with disabilities, specifically in that area.
Thank you. I'm glad I asked.
Yeah, and I had the same kind of question about social media, because this is very helpful to see, but I did wonder what the definition of some of these words. Does that really just speak to how safe kids feel with respect to what's going on in social media?
We could dig into this and probably spend a whole year with our teenagers trying to understand it. I think I can give you some of the items that kids give answers to. Many students in my school will try to stop others from threatening or harassing others using social media. Most students in my school do not share inappropriate information. I can use social media without being harassed by another student. I have been threatened or harassed on social media more than once. So I think, the ratings are still fairly high. It's just a relative weakness compared to other things, but I do think it's a continual area. I think our social media is a 24-hour commentary for kids, and it's very difficult to not have access to things, and we have to try to help them navigate that world. I happen to have one child who's in a different world than my current 8th grader, and it's been interesting as a parent with different age ranges with kids on how we approach that, but it's definitely an area I think we still have to continue to monitor. Mostly at the middle school level. Elementary ratings are a little bit higher, so I think they're all included in here, so it bumps that up a little bit with our middle school.
And I just want to say publicly that from our presentation from the Let's Talk this fall, the presenter really focused on the age that she was recommending for cell phones for students was 13. That's not okay at the Montgomery household. We're thinking about 30. But I just want to say publicly that parents, we know this is a very difficult time for them. If they need help or resources, we will certainly support them in any way. But as an educational leader, I am saying 13 is what the research is saying, only if you are comfortable and you're monitoring your student of the utmost degree.
So because CSCI is broader and used by other districts, do they provide you with any sort of comparative data of what you can expect on these different things? Is it typical for or is that not something that happens?
The most they give us, they don't comparable information. I mean, you can go to the school report card. This information is publicly available and see what the ratings are for school districts. I haven't pulled that. What this Climate Center tells us is scores below 3.5 are kind of neutral, and anything above that is positive. So you get some printouts and things that you might consider with this area if it's, a lower score, but it's not we haven't gone too prescriptive into it. I'm sure if we wanted to access more materials, we could. We just have not. I literally put these numbers in, I think, at the end of last week, and Tiana said, "You have a board report." I said, "Awesome, I actually did that." But I think we do need to dig further. We have a couple of other surveys that we do with our staff, not so much with our students. This is the one that we have outside of Gallup and the Strengths Finder, and I don't know if that actually asks about social media in some of these areas too. So it'd be nice to triangulate some of the information if we could. All right, those are our students. You're gonna see our staff ratings are a little bit higher overall, but you'll notice too, sense of social emotional security and social media are also similar in terms of patterns for the adults in our buildings. Leadership ebbs and flows. Each year we've had changes in different buildings over the years, so that tends to be more cyclical based on the building. And professional relationships, which I think is unique to this survey for our staff, remains fairly high, as well as physical surroundings, safety, so things that our staff are recognizing that are above 4.5 on average. So some schools are even higher than that. Parent ratings, we do this every other year. So this, the 2022 is the darker green. You'll see again some consistencies, higher ratings, most of them above 3.5 in all of the areas with the exception of sense of social emotional security and social media. So we see that pattern across the three stakeholders. So it's worth digging into that a little bit more. And then again, social inclusion was added this year for the parent survey and is above 3.5, which is positive there too. So takeaways, the mean ratings in social media remained in the positive range. Since the CSCI has been administered, we still have a little bit of work to do. Our mean ratings for sense of social emotional security were lower than 2021, still slightly higher than other years, but the pandemic kind of gave us a high bar to achieve, and then social inclusion was included, and we had some positive ratings back from all three stakeholder groups with respect to students with disabilities being included in school. Are there any questions I can answer?
Michelle, can you speak to maybe one for students and one for staff?
Sure.
An insight that you conclude from this year's CSCI that is leading the team and the district to think about something different or a focus area for next year?
That's a good question. Like I said, these data the reports just came out last week, so we haven't had a chance to debrief as a group. I do think the consistent pattern with social emotional security, for sure, across all of our students, our little guys all the way up through, the kids at the middle school, that is an area that it's a nut to crack. We talk about social emotional learning. I think revisiting how we approach that, especially with our middle schoolers, it's kind of become that word that, we have to do this. And I think we need to make it more authentic and be part of what they're navigating and what our teachers see them navigating. So I do think we need to go back to the drawing board. Like the shark houses that they have at Sheridan, there's a natural opportunity for things to take place more authentically, and I think we need to be more creative with how to get that back and going. I think we also have groups of students. This was the first year they're really participating in things like the play and the musicals and things that older students have had an opportunity to do and get connected at school. So we have smaller groups trying out for things. So I think it's getting some of that connectedness back in school as well and opportunities for that. Social media is a tricky one because we have a role in school. I don't know that As a parent, I set the tone for what I want my kids to do, and so I think it's a little trickier in terms of how to approach that from an educational setting. Not that it can't be done, I think conversations, but most of that is educating our kids on internet use, access to information, and instead of the words coming out of our mouths, sometimes they're coming out on a phone, in a text. So some of those things do apply in making those connections. But we've got several years of data to suggest this is kind of stuck. How can we get this above the bar more consistently for our kids? And I would say that's pretty consistent across all of our groups.
Any other questions for Michelle?
Not to Michelle, but for the social part of it, I would like to ask Matt. I think we are also involving our police officers in the schools to help educate kids on social media, how to use it, how to protect themselves, things of that sort.
Yeah, and in fact, we had a meeting with the head of APT, Mark Long. Misa wasn't there at that meeting. This was this week, about programming that we're going to offer in 67, potentially in the fall, about safety, educating parents, talking about the things that can happen to your kids in the internet, or on the internet, forgive me, and other just overall safety and well-being. So it's a nice partnership that Megan brought to the district in partnership with Lake Forest Police. So I'm excited to see that unfold. And she talked to us a little bit at Captain on Monday.
Thank you.
Yeah, I think that's an ongoing conversation as we have new parents who come in and new people who come in. It's like a constant need to continuously educate parents and talk about, and the changing landscape. I mean, the social media, internet landscape changes constantly, and the kids are ahead of all of us almost all the time.
All right.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Shin. All right, I believe Dr. McHugh will be joining us by phone. All right, terrific. We'll move to a report on a updated recommendation for a new math curriculum.
And before, Jeff, are you there? I just want to make sure first.
Hi, everyone. Can you hear me?
We can loud and clear. This is dedication, folks. Jeff is at home remotely under the weather, and he is still here with us, making sure that he's educating us all on the math curriculum. So that is dedication. I just want to thank you, sir, for being with us.
Of course. I absolutely wouldn't miss this. This is a year in the making. Okay, well, I'm hearing kind of an echo. Is there any way we could either, I'm not sure what we can do about that. All right, let's try it now.
Go ahead, Jeff.
All right, let's try it now. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, thanks, Carl. I can't hear you, though. So I think maybe what we'll do is I've got 5 slides in under 5 minutes. I'm just going to go straight through, and then we'll do some questions. All right, I'm getting the thumb up from Carl.
That sounds good.
All right, Tiana, you're my slide deck person, right? Okay, slide 1, I come to you tonight with a recommendation for a 6-8 math resource. At the April board meeting, I brought to you the 2 choices we had narrowed it down to, illustrative and CPM. The recommendation I bring to you tonight is illustrative. Let's go to slide 2. As a quick review, illustrative got the highest possible scores on education reports possible in grades 6, 7, and 8, a perfect score, highly tied to standards, problem-based, similarly to our K-5 Bridges program. And importantly, it had embedded supports for students with disabilities and multilingual learners. That's something that our current resource lacks, we feel. And it also has extensions for students who are ready for more. So it allows teachers to differentiate on both ends of the spectrum. It has built-in cumulative review. And as we know, we have a lot of students who are on an accelerated course pathway. Illustrative has it built into the resource. Let's move on to slide 3, new features for students. Illustrative provides both digital and print materials. And this is something that we've heard from parents. All digital is hard. We've heard from students, all digital is hard. But then on the flip side of that, digital was lacking with our current resource as well. So Illustrative has the best of both worlds. It also has videos and lesson summaries. So when students are at home, they have built-in support. And there are a lot of nice embedded instructional routines to help students strengthen their skills in listening and communicating their mathematical ideas. Let's jump down to parent and family support. I don't know about you, for those of you who are parents of middle school students, math is not being taught the way that I learned math. And I know even as an educator, my kids bring home their math homework and I tell them to ask their mom. Parent family support was something that we felt was important. And every single unit in Illustrative has family support materials, the big ideas of the unit, an overview, and then details about what to expect as the learning deepens, along with questions that you can ask your child at the dinner table to promote that conversation, which we thought was really beneficial. And lastly, we want to support our teachers. Anytime we change a resource, it is a tremendous lift for the teachers. So we want to make sure that we support our 6A teachers next year, and we're actually starting over the summer. We're going to be providing collaborative planning time over the summer to take a look at the resources and start planning ahead, as well as during the school year. Illustrative also has a really nice professional development package that was terribly lacking with CMP because CMP was research-based. It wasn't in the private sector. So they really didn't cater to professional learning supports the way that Illustrative does. And then finally, we're going to have building and district coaches that can help teachers in the classroom with their practices on an individual level. So while we recognize it is going to be a lift anytime there's a change, we're going to do everything we can to support our teachers as they make the shift next year, pending board approval. So now that was, I think, under 5 minutes. We can go back and forth between unmuting and muting maybe, and so just fire away with questions.
Thank you, Dr. McHugh. First of all, can you hear us, Jeff?
I can.
Terrific. Are there questions for Jeff about the recommendation for the new illustrative math curriculum?
Superintendent, is this the one you were familiar with in the past? This is not. That's my question.
So I was familiar with CPM, but told the team that they're both very similar programming, and I would support whichever the group decided in my previous experience shouldn't impact them.
Hey, Jeff, I've got a question. Assuming that the board votes to approve this recommendation tonight, can you just speak more about the professional development and the plan for engaging the staff and teaching them and training them on the new curriculum?
Sure. So we want to start off over the summer. Becky Saxena, our district math coach, is going to offer time over the summer for teachers to come in and work with her to unpack the materials, familiarize themselves with the content and resources, maybe even look at some of the assessments, because sometimes when you get a new curriculum, you need to make tweaks to benefit your student population. So we'll start over the summer, but we also recognize that not all teachers can come in over the summer. They might have vacation, they might just need a break. We are looking to have an all-inclusive professional learning from Illustrative very early in the school year. Hopefully on Institute Day, on those original Institute Days, we'll do that, as well as we can continue that through Becky working with teams during their weekly planning time. But we want to make sure we can't do that over the summer because we can't guarantee everyone will be there. And we feel that all of those teachers, they should have the right to have that professional learning directly from the company.
Thanks, Jeff.
I love that this curriculum has those resources for parents and families, and I am definitely in the crowd of people who feel like they maybe teach math a little differently than they did when I was a kid. So, you know, to the extent that there is a way to promote those resources among parents, I think it sounds wonderful, and I would personally would love to use them with my kids, so that hopefully we're on the same page in terms of what they're learning, and I can answer their questions when they come up.
So I have a quick follow-up on the professional development question. Do we anticipate that all of our coaches will access summer professional development?
Yes.
Thank you for the
Suzanne, were you able to hear me?
Yeah, I was. I just, in thinking about if Becky is one of the supports for teachers, if our building coaches at DPM who might be able to support this work are also prepared in the summer along with anyone else who wants to be, then that puts us in a stronger position than if they aren't. So that was what was behind my question.
Hey, Jeff, another question. Obviously, a change in curriculum, may be difficult or would be very difficult to see changes in test scores or any kind of data around improvements to student learning. But how will you assess, just the success of the adoption of the new curriculum kind of in the early days on this, maybe in the first half of next year? How will you think about that?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's a great question. Oh, thanks, Deanna. That's a great question, Justin. I think that what we'll do is it's going to be a combination of the teachers with their universal assessments they're using in the classroom. They'll be able to get a feel for, let me take a step back. The standards that are being taught are the same across the board. So the standards aren't changing. It's the way that they're being taught. So especially in math, I think there's a lot of consistency with that. And even as I was trying my novice hand at teaching this stuff, I could see between different curricular areas, oh, this lesson is kind of similar to this lesson because you're teaching the same thing. So I think in the classroom, teachers will be able to see, in the past, this is how students did with Pythagorean theorem. And now using this new curriculum, they're learning it better, they're struggling more, or it's about the same. So I think we'll have some qualitative evidence from the teachers. We're also going to want to use our standardized tests. So we'll still do MAP, we'll still do IAR. And while I don't want to promise that all of a sudden test scores are going to be off the charts, I would hope that we start to see improvements in test scores. I don't know how quickly that will happen, but I think we'll look at both the in the classroom assessments as well as the standardized in order to see how well illustrative is working.
Thanks, Jeff. Any other questions for Dr. McHugh?
Dr. McHugh, I just want to say that you have inspired me that all of my board presentations will be in which the board cannot respond. So I want to thank you for that wonderful idea. That's going to be my new mode of presentation. That was a joke.
Okay, I'm going to wait for the laughter to subside.
Better joke.
Thanks, Jeff. We'll be taking an action and a vote on this action item or recommendation later this evening. We'll now move to committee reports, and we'll begin with the Education Committee. Suzanne?
The Education Committee met on May 12th here at West Campus, and the committee was joined by Dr. McHugh, Dr. Montgomery, Megan Eigenrau, and Becky Sextana. The first thing that we talked about was the math review, so I'm not going to speak to that. But then we had sort of an overarching teaching and learning overview from Dr. McHugh's lens. He walked the committee through an overview of the 6 major areas of work in the year ahead. First up was the Portrait of a Graduate work, which is in its final stages. And he and Dr. Montgomery explained that the outcome from the process will drive strategic planning, as well as shape and modify future work in the district. Dr. Montgomery added that Battelle is potentially being engaged to support aligning our strategic plan to the portrait work. Next, District 115's One Lake Forest vision statement was shared with the committee as a potential jumping off point for our continued work on inclusivity. The third area of work ahead is the continuation into phase 2 of the K-8 reading review, which the committee has heard about all year and we've brought to the board frequent updates. There continues to be high levels of engagement and excitement across the staff around professional learning with regard to the science of reading research. One of the next steps in this work will be reviewing and updating the district's core literacy beliefs in light of the learning that has been taking place already. Next year's work will include looking into what's working, what instructional changes are needed across the district, how changes will be implemented, and what, if any, resources might be required for that work. Dr. Montgomery added that D65 has expressed an interest in engaging in some of this work with District 67, and so that will be forthcoming. Next up, Dr. McHugh expressed excitement about the full implementation of our coaching model with the addition of building coaches at the 3 elementary buildings. He explained that our new Director of Teaching and Learning, Vale Kaiser, is coming to us with significant experience facilitating what are called professional learning communities, which will support the district in getting the most positive student outcomes with the foundation that has already been built around coaching. Based on feedback from students and teachers, social emotional learning instruction will be updated. This sort of speaks to what Michelle was saying earlier, and adjusted in the coming year. There is a desire for this work to be more fully embedded across the curriculum, particularly at DPM. We've been hearing about that in some of the portrait meetings. DPM students saying when it's a completely separate part of their day, that's not feeling authentic to them, and the admin team over there is taking that to heart. So rather than being primarily taught in standalone lessons and instruction, they're going to look for ways to embed it across the curriculum as and where appropriate. There's also a desire to find ways to connect it to students' lived experiences and what is happening in our learning environments. Finally, prior to the pandemic, DPM had embarked on professional learning and work with regard to grading and reporting practices. While this work has continued, it has not been a top priority given all the other demands of the past couple years. So the work on evidence-based reporting will continue in earnest next year with leadership from Megan Eigenrau. Committee work and professional learning will be taking place across grades K-8 in this area. And we'll be hearing more as that work takes place next year. At each of our meetings, we allow time for committee member input. We had none this time, and our next meeting is to be decided. I'm in the process of working with committee members' availability to determine next year's Ed Committee meeting schedule.
Thank you. Are there any questions from the board for Suzanne? Seeing none, we'll move to an update on finance and ops. Alice, do you have an update?
Finance and operations has not met since our last meeting. The next meeting for this group will be July.
Thank you, Alice. Policy. Rich, do you have an update for us tonight?
The policy meeting has not met.
Thank you, Rich. No news about when your next meeting is?
Tiana, do we have a date? We have a tentative date, but not July. It's in July.
We'll
but
wait for it to be official.
We need to get a specific date, so just wait for anticipation. It'll be good.
Thank you, Rich. We'll now move to liaison reports, and we'll begin with an update on True North. Suzanne?
So the True North Leadership Council met on May 11th. And a couple of just quick highlights from that meeting. We had some folks from the Highland Park Chamber of Commerce come and speak to us about the True North Highland Park Chamber Workforce Development Initiative that connects to transition students in some Highland Park schools, but some other high schools that send transition students to True North, and they are opening a storefront space in downtown Highland Park. So we're having the ribbon cutting for that coming up, which is very exciting. And the chamber couldn't have spoken more highly of the team that they've been working with at True North. And the goal of this is to have students who are in this transition, which is 18 to 22, and still being provided with services, have paid employment as much as possible. And so this will help with that process. And they're looking to then speak to other communities and connect with other communities around their successes and things that happen. Another exciting partnership is that we are opening an early childhood classroom within Kenilworth District 38. That is another partnership. And we heard from the Teacher Assistants Association there. We had changed our compensation structure, and they came to speak to us about their appreciation for the changes, not only compensation, but we created some real career pathways in the process of doing that for them. I'm happy to answer any other questions. There were a bunch of other things. We're in budgeting season, so we're working on the budget diligently, and we had a lot of conversations about that at that meeting as well. And that is my report. We meet next June 8th.
Questions for Suzanne? Seeing none. Carl, do you want to give us an update on legislative activities?
Yes, thank you. My report's going to be pretty short this month. The Illinois spring legislative session came to a close in April. I attached a list of the bills that were signed into law by the governor as part of the report in the agenda there. There's a bunch more sitting on his desk, and hopefully they will get signed into law sometime soon. A couple things locally here. Ed Red has restructured some of their dues. More information is going to come out, and we'll probably have that as a discussion item later on. The other item is Districts 65, 67, and 115. We all met representatives met on May 18th to initiate discussions on updating and changing our legislative priorities. We are talking about expanding our little group, both south, west, and north, to bring other districts in. So more to follow as we progress and have more discussions about this. But yeah, that's it. So pending any questions anybody has, that's what I have for today.
Thank you, Carl, and great to see the momentum with the legislative priorities across the districts. All right, we'll move to an update on Spirit. Rich, I know you have an update there.
I do have an update. Thank you, Justin. The Spirit report for Tuesday, May 24th, the district's community celebrated in the spirit of style an evening of fashion and fundraising this past Thursday evening at Exmoor Country Club. The evening included an outstanding fashion show with over 50 looks from Neiman Marcus, Lily Alexander, and other boutiques. We would like to thank all our guests and especially our generous sponsors, including Baker McNicholas Real Estate Group, the Trace Real Estate Group, Rasney Jewelers, Belvedere Catering, Monochrome Designs, Catherine Lamb, and Northern Trust. The event was truly fabulous and netted over $65,000 for our district. It is awesome. Okay, the last fundraiser of the year is a very easy one. So who needs dinner? Get your guac on. So if you're watching this on Tuesday, following us tonight, because I know we're delayed a little bit, Chipotle is donating a percentage of sales back to the Spirit of 67 tomorrow evening. If you're watching us on Wednesday, go to Chipotle tonight. Pick up dinner at Chipotle in Lake Bluff between 4 and 8 p.m. and show them one of the digital flyers that were sent out yesterday and today, or order online, code F7N8BJE. This is all in the agenda. It's a great excuse not to cook dinner, so please go to Chipotle. Finally, on behalf of the entire 67 board, Spirit of 67, they would like to thank the Board of Education for their diligent commitment to our school, community, and children. They greatly appreciate our time, talents, and they hope that we have a wonderful summer. See you next school year. From the Spirit of 67. Thank you. That completes my report.
Great. Thank you, Rich, and congrats to Spirit for a very successful fundraiser and a very successful year.
I agree. Thank you.
Any other questions for Rich? Seeing none. Annie, would you please give an update on Executive APT in Emily's absence tonight?
Absolutely. All of the building APT boards have held their old board, new board meetings this month to celebrate current board members and welcome new ones. The APT wrapped up the district-wide Schools Out Fun Food Drive. Thank you to Krista McCain and all of the community service reps at the building levels for all their work. We collected a record amount of food and we're thrilled to offer our DPM kids service hour opportunities to help sort and bag it. And thank you to Croya for their partnership in this process and for allowing them to use their space to bag all of the donations. The APT would like to thank its 5 boards for all the work that they have accomplished this year. We're proud of the programming that has been carried out by their 250 plus volunteers. In terms of upcoming events, the APT will host a 4th grade, soon to be incoming 5th grade, social on June 2nd from 5 to 6:30 at Everett Park. It sounds pretty awesome. They're welcoming all incoming 5th graders to come and hang out with old and new friends. And they're hoping that this will offer their soon-to-be middle schoolers and their families a chance to socialize and reconnect with their peers as they approach the middle school milestone. A huge thank you to the community partners, Forest Orthodontics, for donating their ice cream truck to this event. Donati's will also be there with pizza and burgers for purchase. We appreciate their partnership. The APG is bringing back school supply boxes for grades K through 4 to make back to school shopping easy. And there are details in the report about how parents can order those school boxes. Please be sure to place your order by July 1st. In terms of DPM, the 8th grade graduation committee has had a wonderful end of the year dance and social plan for May 27th. It will be hosted at the Winter Club. Thank you to the 8th grade committee for all the time and effort put forth into the graduation efforts. The DPM APT is also partnering with Croya to host a 7th grade dance on June 3rd at Croya. Tickets will be $5 and are available for purchase at lunch over the next couple of weeks. Finally, Beach Day is back. It's been a few years since the 7th and 8th grade Beach Day tradition has happened, and the APT is thrilled to partner with the DPM admin, staff, and the Spirit of 67 to bring back the fun. 8th grade Beach Day is Thursday, May 26th, and 7th grade Beach Day is Friday, June 3rd. Let's hope the weather is good. A big congratulations to the 8th grade graduates and their families. The APT wishes them the best of luck as they enter the next phase of their academic careers. Sorry, this is somewhat of a long report. Sheridan is hosting an exploration day on June 3rd for the end of the year, allowing parents to volunteer and allow different fun sessions for kids to learn more about crafts, cooking, sports, dance, photography, and more. At Cherokee on June 1st, there will be an ice cream social with the new principal, Kate Kavanaugh. And finally, a special thank you. As we close out this year, they want to extend an enormous thank you to the Executive APT Board Administrative Liaison, Melissa Oakley. She's been an extremely valuable partner to the APT organization. And they say this about her, and I hope she's able to watch. She's a difference maker, a connector, a problem solver, and truly works around the clock, making our district a better place. Thank you, Melissa, for all you do to support the APT and the district at large. I could not agree more. Finally, just a couple of reminders. Please do not forget to join the APT when you register your child for school next year. Your donation not only grants you access to the online directory, but more importantly, it supports the efforts of our year-round programming. We hope everyone has a wonderful summer, and we look forward to continuing to build our APT community as we plan for next year. And just a heads up that for next year, the APT meetings are typically held the second Thursday of the month.
Terrific. Very nice pinch hitting, Annie. Thank you, and congrats to the APT as well, and especially all the volunteers who serve on the Executive APT for another tremendous year supporting District 67 schools. With that, we will now move to action items for the evening. May I have a motion to approve the ECRA contract renewal?
So moved.
May I have a second?
Second.
Are there any questions on this action item? May I have roll call, please? Tiana.
Mr. Chun?
Aye.
Ms. Lebert?
Aye.
Ms. Sands?
Aye.
Mr. Carrar?
Aye.
Mr. England?
Aye.
Ms. Helms?
Aye.
Motion carries.
Thank you. May I have a motion to approve the 2022 to 2024 custodial bid award for Smith Maintenance Company?
So moved.
May I have a second?
Second.
Are there any questions on this action item? May I have a roll call vote, please, Tiana?
Ms. Lebert?
Aye.
Ms. Sands?
Aye.
Ms. Helms?
Aye.
Mr. Chun?
Aye.
Mr. Carrar?
Aye.
Mr. England?
Aye.
Motion carries.
Thank you. May I have a motion to approve the district consolidated plan? Is that what we're, great. Sorry, there's a typo here. May I have a motion to approve the district consolidated plan?
So moved.
May I have a second?
Second.
Are there any questions or comments on this action item? May I have a roll call vote, please, Tiana?
Mr. Carrar?
Aye.
Mr. Chun?
Aye.
Mr. England?
Aye.
Ms. Lebert?
Aye.
Ms. Helms?
Aye.
Ms. Sands?
Aye.
Motion carries.
Thank you. May I have a motion to approve the copier lease and maintenance contract?
So moved.
May I have a second?
Second.
Questions, comments on this action item? May I have a roll call vote, please, Tiana?
Ms. Sands?
Aye.
Ms. Lebert?
Aye.
Mr. England?
Aye.
Mr. Carrar?
Aye.
Ms. Helms?
Aye.
Mr. Chun?
Aye.
Motion carries.
Thank you. May I have a motion to approve the textbooks and resources for 6th to 8th grade math?
So moved.
May I have a second?
Second.
Are there any new questions on this action item? Nope.
One question. Just confirm that, I mean, the costs, I mean, any additional costs for the books, I guess it's not additional costs, it's rolled into the current budget. We're budgeted for it, ready to go with it.
That is correct.
I can field that one. Anna?
I think we're good, Jeff, on that one.
Okay, thanks.
Thank you.
I have a roll call vote, please, Tiana.
Mr. Chun?
Aye.
Mr. England?
Aye.
Ms. Sands?
Aye.
Ms. Helms?
Aye.
Mr. Carrar?
Aye.
Ms. LeVert?
Aye.
Motion carries.
Thank you. May I have a motion to approve the amended 2022-2023 school calendar?
So moved.
May I have a second?
Second.
Are there any questions or comments on this action item? May I have a roll call vote, please, Tiana?
Ms. Helms?
Aye.
Ms. Sands?
Aye.
Mr. Chun?
Aye.
Ms. LeVert?
Aye.
Mr. Carrar?
Aye.
Mr. England?
Aye.
Motion carries.
May I have a motion to approve the 2023-2024 school calendar?
So moved.
May I have a second?
Second.
Are there any questions about this calendar?
Is this calendar also aligned, Mr. Superintendent?
Yes, sir. We worked to make sure that we would not have the same situation moving forward of us being out of sync with the Regional Office of Education's recommended school calendar.
Thank you, sir.
Any other questions? May I have a roll call vote, please, Tiana?
Mr. England?
Dr. Super.
Aye.
Ms. Helms?
Aye.
Ms. LeVert?
Aye.
Ms. Sands?
Aye.
Mr. Chun?
Aye.
Mr. Carrar?
Aye.
Motion carries.
Thank you. May I have a motion to approve the Human Resources Report as presented?
So moved.
May I have a second?
Second.
Are there any questions on the HR report? No. May I have a roll call vote, please, Tiana?
Ms. Sands?
Aye.
Mr. Chun?
Aye.
Mr. England?
Aye.
Ms. Helms?
Aye.
Mr. Carrar?
Aye.
Ms. LeVert?
Aye.
Motion carries.
Thank you. We'll now move to our consent agenda. As a reminder, any item may be removed from the consent agenda at the request of a board member. May I have a motion to approve the consent agenda items, including the approval of designation of depositories, minutes of regular meeting and workshop on April 26, 2022, minutes of a joint special meeting on May 10th, 2022, minutes of an executive session on May 10th, 2022.
So moved.
May I have a second?
Second.
Any questions or requests to remove items from the consent agenda? May I have a roll call vote, please, Tiana?
Mr. England?
Aye.
Ms. LeVert?
Aye.
Ms. Sands?
Aye.
Ms. Helms?
Aye.
Mr. Carrar?
Aye.
Mr. Chun?
Aye.
Motion carries.
Thank you. We'll now move to updates on Freedom of Information Act requests. There have been 5 over the last month. Alyssa Sinclair, resident, is complete. Kristen Bilali, resident, is complete. Jim Russo from Alpha Building Maintenance Service is also complete. Marissa Fallon from Parents Defending Education, complete. And lastly, Charles Bynum from Joe Bill, complete. This time we'll move to our second opportunity for public participation. As a reminder, this is an opportunity for public comment about any item, whether it's on the agenda tonight or not. This time, are there any members of the public who would like to address the board? Seeing none, we'll move to a couple of announcements. On Tuesday, May 31st, next week, will be 8th grade graduation, 5 p.m. here at the West Campus. On Tuesday, June 21st, 2022, is our next Board of Education meeting at 7 o'clock here in the West Campus boardroom. Please note that is a change from our originally posted time of June 28th. It will now be on Tuesday, June 21st. Mark your calendars. Before moving to adjourn, I did want to just briefly speak to one thing that is not on our agenda this evening. As many people know, there are just tragic and horrific events in Texas earlier today. As parents, as humans, none of us can begin to understand what these families and what that community is going through. In a small symbol of support, I'd like to request that everyone here and the board observe a moment of silence and solidarity for what's going on down there. Thank you. With that, may I have a motion to adjourn the City of Lake Forest School District 67 Board meeting for May 24th, 2022?
So moved.
May I have a second?
Second.
May I have a voice vote? All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All right.